Fallout over racism allegations in the NBA, changing strategy in the hunt for Flight 370, and the long life of a tutu. Welcome to Globe Now, I'm Afan Chaudhry. All eyes are on the NBA and what it's going to do about this man's alleged racist comment. So how did all of this start? Well, here is the picture of Donald Sterling's girlfriend posing with basketball legend Magic Johnson. Sterling is alleged to have told his girlfriend that he did not want her posing with black people and posting pictures on her Instagram. The reaction and condemnation was swift, from Magic Johnson to other legends like Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And this, a Twitter hashtag, Sterling must go. And let's not forget a Barack Obama rebuke. Unfortunately, racism isn't unheard of in many professional sports. In baseball, Cincinnati Reds owner Marge Schott was suspended in the early 1990s over racist comments about black players. Hockey has witnessed on-ice racial slurs. In 1997, Washington Capitals player Chris Simon was suspended for 3 games and fined after directing racial slurs at African-American player Mike Greer. Pro football? It's also struggled with how to police racism on the field. On the field or off, racism continues to be a challenge in professional sports. The exhaustive search for missing Malaysia Flight 370 is heading in a new direction. The underwater search is now going to intensify while the air and sea searches come to an end. The Globe's Nathan Vanderclip joins me now from Beijing to discuss. Welcome, Nathan. What are the next steps in this search?
Well, what's going to happen now is they're going to begin using underwater technology. So they're going to use what's called side scanning sonar. It's a device that's towed behind a ship. It goes way down deep in the ocean to just above the seabed, and it looks sort of sideways. And there's an operator on the ship that can look effectively in real time as it's looking at a path, sort of depending on where they are, between a half kilometer and a kilometer on each side of this device as they go through. And they've identified now a very, very large zone for this underwater search. They've warned it could take 6 to 8 months to happen if conditions are good. Just to give you a sense of this zone, it's a big rectangle, and the long part of the rectangle is 700 kilometers long. So that is almost exactly the distance between Toronto and Boston. And this ship is going to be moving at probably about 5.5 kilometers an hour in one path. Just to go up and down, and of course it's 80 kilometers wide. So that you can imagine how long it's going to take to look over this enormous area.
And this underwater technology is something that they've already been using. What is the reason that they're giving in terms of giving or canceling their air and sea searches?
Well, it's now been 52 days of looking. They've used, in the last 41 days, which is when sort of Australia has taken over, they've used 29 aircraft, they've used 14 ships. They have searched an area that's 4.5 million square kilometers. If that were a country, it would be the 7th biggest country on Earth. It's the size of Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, and Yukon combined. So it's this just gigantic area using super high-tech vessels and ships, highly trained people, and they have looked and they have looked and they have looked, and they have not found a single piece of debris from this aircraft. So at some point one has to say, well, if we haven't found it yet, we're probably not going to find it on the surface anyway. So this now turns to an underwater search.
So moving forward, what sorts of obstacles are ahead?
Well, the biggest one is, are they looking in the right place? If you look at the Air France example from 2009, where they were looking for Air France 447, they spent over 2 years looking at them in quite a smaller area, an area that was at its largest, a third the size, and had much more assets that they could use. At one point, they even used a nuclear submarine to look. But for the first year and a half or so, they were looking in the wrong area. They were off by a couple of kilometers. When they finally started looking in the right area, they found it. Now, this is a giant area they're looking in here for MH370, so hopefully they have encompassed the areas they need to be in, but this is still a mystery. There is no certain notion of where this ship is. They have followed the leads as best they could, and what's happened for the last 2 weeks or so is they've used an underwater robot to search a smaller area, 400 square kilometers, that seemed to be where these pings were emanating from, pings that could have come from a black box, a voice or data recorder, but they found nothing there, so now they have to broaden the search.
Nathan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, has the missing Malaysia flight changed your views on flying? Tweet us at Globe Now. Now, the National Ballet of Canada is prepping for a new season, and that means having the costumes sewn and ready. But did you know that some tutus have a longer career on stage than the dancers wearing them? Take a look at how they maintain the costumes to keep them lasting for years and years.
Because we use them over a long span of time, many different dancers will wear them over the history of that one tutu. Here's a snowflake tutu from the Nutcracker. It has been around since 1995, and we're still doing this production. We put names in it, and if a dancer, when they're no longer wearing this tutu, we cover up the name, but we like to leave as many names as possible because it's kind of nice to see a history of the costume. And the costumes are often shared. You don't necessarily get your own. So this allows it to be worn by more than one person. And we're always repairing and fixing and checking and steaming during a run because they get squashed, they get wet, there's a lot of sweat involved, they're working really hard. So a big part of my job is laundry. So we get a bucket, fill it with water, soap, flip the tutu over, put the tutu bodice in the bucket, push the crotch into the water to give it a wash, then rinse and hang to dry.
Well, that's it for Globe Now. Thanks for watching. If you've got a minute, hop onto Twitter. How should the NBA handle the allegations surrounding Donald Sterling? Tweet us what you think at Globe Now. Thanks again. I'm Afan Chaudhry.